Now look, I'm as big of a fan of a Spider-Man controversy as the next guy. I mean, practically every issue of The Amazing Spider-Man that comes out, there's something worth complaining about. But this has to be the dumbest, most ridiculous, probably most disingenuous Spider-Man controversy of all time. It's very silly to me, but apparently actor Tom Holland, keyword actor, who does acting, does different roles, is not just one person, did a intimate gay adult scene in the TV series The Crowded Room, and this has somehow spurred some people to say that this is not their Spider-Man and that it was disgusting and that he shouldn't play Spider-Man anymore. Now, personally, I think that some of the reactions are overplayed just for clout. Like people trying to chase a bunch of likes, quote retweets in the hope to get followers on Twitter, or trying to get likes on Insta or, on Facebook, things like that. Basically people clout chasing for attention. But I was looking through some of these, and some of the people actually genuinely seem serious about this. Some people actually seem to be offended that an actor took a role acting, and that somehow makes him not capable of playing the character anymore because they can't see him the same way. Now, before we hop into it fully, if you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I do talk about Spider-Man. I also talk about Batman, Marvel Comics, DC Comics, James Bond, Fallout, Assassin's Creed, some Transformers videos coming soon, some Metal Gear Solid videos coming soon. So, lots of fun stuff on this channel that I hope you will enjoy. But hopping back into it, something that's really funny to me about this is that people are acting like the actor Tom Holland shouldn't act unless it's very specific roles, when meanwhile Tobey Maguire was actually gay in the 2000 film Wonder Boys. I don't know if anyone remembers this film. I know it's probably before a lot of the internet's time because a lot of these trash takes are very young people who are clout chasing, but when it comes down to it, Tobey Maguire and Robert Downey Jr. were both in bed together in that film. And I haven't really seen anyone say, not my Spider-Man, not my Iron Man. It's just kind of silly to me and weird. I also do think, though, that back then, even though being out as a gay person was like more taboo and society was kind of against it, I would say, at least in the West or in America specifically. And now there are groups that actually celebrate it. Whereas I just think it's like when I see a gay person, it's just like, okay, they're gay. I don't, whatever. Times have changed, so I understand that whenever times change, there's going to be pushback. Like, there's always going to be people against this. There's always going to be people who act like it's more special than it is, when to me, it's just like, oh, another thing that exists out there. Because for me, whenever there's two men together, in bed, it doesn't really do much for me, positively or negatively, unless it's me and Nate. But I did want to take a look at this whole thing because it's just a weird situation to me that people completely ignored this with previous Spider-Man actors. I mean, another one was actually Andrew Garfield. He actually played a gay man suffering from AIDS in the play Angels in America, and he's shown sitting in bed with another man. But nobody's like, going after him for that. It's just a very, very weird standard to hold actors to. I also think there's a very parasocial relationship around Tom Holland that I don't understand. I haven't seen this kind of parasocial relationship with a celebrity since people like K-pop groups, things like that. It's not something I see very often with an actor anymore. Like this parasocial thing where it's like clinging to every piece of news, everything an actor does, and trying to live vicariously through them. I've seen this a lot with the relationship that Tom Holland has with Zendaya, where people are saying like, oh, well, Zendaya is having a sex scene in this new movie. Tom Holland should be upset about this. Like, he should be, protecting the image of his girlfriend and all this weird stuff. And people are forgetting that these people are actors. They go play pretend and get into this character and, take this kind of stuff seriously and then record it and actually share stories. That's how movie making works. That's how filmmaking is. That's how, it is for TV. That's how it is for these streaming series. It's not real. It's not a real thing. I'm very confused as to how this is actually any kind of controversy that Tom Holland having a gay sex scene in The Crowded Room is somehow newsworthy to anyone. Like, even positively, like, to me, it's kind of silly. Like, I don't really see this as a thing. Now, maybe it's because I'm not gay, so I don't really look at this and see it as like a major win for society, nor do I see it as this weird loss for society. I just see it as two dudes had a scene in a show. That's it. Now, maybe the people who watch the show very, religiously and are really into this show are going to connect with the story more than I do. I don't have a problem with it. I don't see it as a thing either way. And speaking of which, I will say as a connoisseur of intimate homosexual scenes, there was really nothing shown here. I'm not going to show it on YouTube, not because I think it's gross, but because I don't want to get in trouble. I'm actually very hesitant to show any kind of sexuality on YouTube when it comes, other than like some jokes here or there, when it comes to on-screen depictions. I mean, like maybe a girl in a low-cut top or a guy with his shirt off is one thing, but you start showing a little too much, even if it's basically just a nothing burger, and YouTube demonetizes you because it's a very prude website, which is weird because I get a lot of ads on here about hookups. But as a connoisseur of this type of scene, I will tell you that I would personally rate it probably a 3 out of 10 anyway. All you see is really facial expressions and the top of Tom Holland's head. That's not much. This is like a heavy rain sex scene where it's like, a little bit kissing type, intimacy, and then all of a sudden the act is pretty much implied and then it's over. It wasn't really even a minute long, the act or anything like that. It was a handful of seconds. And honestly, as somebody who came into it from the outside and was really expecting to see, a show, I gotta be honest, there was not much to see here. Overall, I think personally, and I know that some people will disagree with me, I think personally a lot of people take stuff like this way too seriously. I think that when it comes down to it, if you are for some reason against gay people existing or whatever, like it's a religious thing or it's just a personal thing or whatever, I don't really think there's much convincing people of, this kind of stuff. But also if you're for it, where you're like celebrating the scene, it's just whatever to me too. It's just a scene. It's just actors doing their job. What's weird to me about it is that I don't really get making this into a thing. Whenever there's a scene where an actor has relations, I will say adult relations with another actor in the scene, other than, oh, that was hot or, oh, that was not, nobody really makes it into a big thing, right? Nobody would be getting upset and saying, this is not my Spider-Man. I guess it's very disappointing to me to see groups of people doing that kind of thing. Now, again, I've talked before about where I also don't find this stuff celebratory to me at all either. Like, it's just kind of a nothing to me. Same with something like, I know I got in trouble, 2 or 3 years ago, talking about Tim Drake with his boyfriend Bernard. And I kind of said, I think the writing here is shit. I think it's very silly to change core fundamental aspects of this character who's been paired up with Stephanie Brown for a long, long, long time, basically. And I don't really get this character direction. This kind of seems like a clout chasing thing to me, which I personally stand by. I do think there are a lot of decisions made in writing, not because it's authentically good for the story, but because it's to chase clout, to chase clicks. Almost like to be different, right? I think there are a lot of comic books, a lot of movies, superhero or otherwise, that do that kind of thing, not because it better serves characters or the story, but because they want to be different. Whether that's changing a, sexuality or anything else. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it really doesn't. I think it's weird when people lash out at the people who think it doesn't as a story, but I also think it's very, very weird and just backwards to be upset about actors portraying characters in a scene that shouldn't really bother you. I don't really understand this parasocial level of thinking where everything that Tom does is worth analyzing, or everything that his girlfriend does is worth analyzing. If you connect with this show, and it's like a powerful scene to you because of character moments and stuff, cool. But if you're just kind of coming in from the outside and you're looking at it and you're like, ew, two men together, I don't know what to tell you, man. That's what the world is. That is the world. In America, believe it or not, we actually had this thing that we preached that a lot of people don't follow. It was called tolerance. It was, even if you're not the same as someone, that you don't care and you leave them the hell alone, you let them do what they want as long as they're not infringing your rights. I think a lot of people never took that seriously, never took that to heart. And unfortunately, a lot of people are extremely judgmental of others, which I've noticed is usually because they have a lot of shit going on in their own lives that they don't want anyone to know about. So when I see people going like, this can't be Spider-Man anymore because he was with a man on screen. Yeah, sure, maybe I'm not going to celebrate the scene because it doesn't mean anything to me at all, but I'm also not offended because it's such a weird thing to be offended about. You know, this very much screams to me like the boomers on Facebook who would post like a picture of two girls kissing out in public or like two guys holding hands and be like, ew, look at this, how society has fallen. And this is the world. People are different than you. People are not you. There's going to be people who are not white if you're white, or people who are not black if you're black, or people who are not straight if you're straight, or tall if you're tall. The world is full of a lot of different types of people, and you don't have to, be those types of people. You don't have to be gay, but you also don't have to be a dick about it. I feel like it's not worth complaining about this unless it's a story element. If you want to complain about stories of things, if you want to complain about, hey, there was this intimate scene, but they didn't lead up to it at all, and it didn't serve the story at all, and, that kind of thing. Or like, hey, there was this intimate scene, but it was done for shock factor. Like, for example, movies like I Spit on Your Grave, which I'm not even going to talk too much about, but where it's very obviously, like, if you've seen the girl with the dragon tattoo, it's like that, but getting into very deeply and extending the scenes of woman trauma inflicted from a man, that kind of thing, forcibly. Those kinds of things, when they're done for shock factor, or when they're done and they don't serve the story and they're just ridiculous, just thrown in, completely agree. Complain about it all you want, because you know what you're doing? You're criticizing the story. You're critiquing a story, a movie, a video game, a book, a TV series, whatever. Totally fine. That's a part of the human experience. Enjoying art, talking about what you do and don't like, creating your own stuff. But going online, clout chasing, looking for clicks, tweets, retweets, likes, all this stuff, to basically just be like, hey, look at how unaccepting I am. Look at how much of a dick I am. This doesn't really do anything for me either. Yeah, you don't have to be gay. You don't have to see anything in this scene. That's fine. You don't have to. The same way that somebody who is asexual, I'm sure, goes to a James Bond movie, they probably don't get anything out of Bond sleeping with a girl. They probably see that and it just is a disconnect to them. It's the same way with this. If it doesn't mean anything to you, fair enough. I'm not asking you to go in the streets with a parade and a bunch of floats and celebrate the scene, but going on Twitter or Instagram or all these things to just bitch about it and make this into a big thing about how Spider-Man sucks or how Tom shouldn't play Spider-Man or whatever, it is like the most loser behavior I've probably ever seen. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content. Like I said, there is a lot of stuff coming up very soon. Metal Gear Solid videos I am working on. I actually am working on these things, guys. I'm not just bullshitting you. I really am working on them. It's just a lot of my stuff is project-based. I'm also working as well on some Transformers stuff. I am working as well on going back to James Bond. We're going to be doing more Spider-Man, more Batman, more Marvel, more DC, all this stuff. So I hope you will join us on that ride. Have a fantastic day. And as always, everyone, stay Shui.